I cannot stand to lose. And like when I'm with a company and it feels like they're not allowing us to win, I have a really hard time with that. And I know it's funny because that's why you guys, the name of the show is Why You Win. So, but I hate losing. I hate when somebody won't let us win. That really bothers me. I want to be number one. Like if you're my competitor, I just want to smother you.
Whether you're going to market through dealers, distributors, or some other partner channel, the mediated sale is complex. We call it B2B to X.
But the leaders in the industry are the ones who are making it look simple. I'm John Goff.
And I'm Kyler Mason, and this is Why You Win, presented by Element 3.
Today's episode is with Chris Peterman. He's an industry sales veteran who thought that he was going to be an elementary school educator, ended up selling motorcycles at a dealership, and has spent the last 30 years of his career in domestic and international OEs. And Chris is a competitor, and his take is that you want to be in a competitive environment and that you want a product that's good enough that your customers are coming in and asking for it by name. It's a great conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Chris, we're so happy to have you on today. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me. It's quite the privilege. Thank you guys.
So one of the things that we have been really excited to talk to you about is in this B2B to X environment. You've been on the dealership side as a general manager. You've repped a couple of different OEs in the power sports area. Talk to us about like your world right now. What are you thinking about? What is your responsibility? How do you see what the landscape's looking like?
Yeah, I mean, for the power sports industry and the business overall right now, it's in a weird position. Obviously, the geopolitical climate right now with tariff, not just on China, but there's also Japan, there's also the EU, things like that. So it's in a weird position where there's been a lot of growth in the past 15 years in the motor power sports business, especially on the four-wheel side, which has been the driver of things. Motorcycle business has been pretty steady as well. COVID was also a big situation for us that helped our business, but currently right now it's just in a wait and see. You know, a lot of people ask me about what the business looks like moving forward for this year. I don't think anybody would tell you that there's some big rosy picture for this year, but I don't think it's going to be nearly as bad as a lot of people think it was going to be towards the end of last year. Q4 was a little bit dicey, but I think moving forward, there's a little bit of a price correction that's going to be coming in, and I think that's going to be healthy for the business. So it's strong long term. Short term, it's a little bit of headwind.
Sometimes we get the temptation to like go zoom in directly on the business and talk about that. But one of the things I like talking to power sports guys about is you're in this business because you just got to be some sort of love for a motorcycle in there somewhere, right? You were telling me about a picture you have in front of you of a racer at Laguna Seca. Tell us, what's the motorcycle angle on you?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, man, for me, it's funny, I fell into this gig. It's been a crazy ride for me. I went to school to be a teacher, elementary school teacher. And it just happened at the same time for me that I was working part-time at a motorcycle dealership when I was in college. And I've always been a huge motorcycle power sports person. I just grew up around it. And so one thing led to another with the dealership, and I got opportunities to take career leaps at the dealership. And I chose to do that instead of becoming a teacher and things like that. And it's crazy. When I was a kid, when I was just starting to ride, I'd be like, man, it'd be cool to work in this business. And I can't explain how the past 30 years, like how it's panned out, that I was able to make a career and be successful with it. Like I told you before, I went to the Salt Lake Supercross. I have lots of friends in the business. I'm a big MotoGP guy. You have to have to me, you have to have some sort of passion for this. You don't get in this business. It's not working selling metal or something like that. You have to have this passion for it. And I think this business kind of lends itself to that. It's what people like to do. And we always joke in this business, you're never going to get rich doing it, but you sure can enjoy your job a lot more than digging ditches and things like that. It's been a crazy ride for me. And I just can't believe that it's raised my family. It's given me the opportunity. I've lived in lots of places. I've met so many good people. I just can't really express to you guys how much it's meant to me to be a fan of something that I work in. There's always those times when you don't ever make your favorite hobby your job because it turns into your job. There's always been those times in this business, but in general though, it's just been an amazing thing for me and my family, and just to be able to do what you really enjoy doing for the majority of your career.
Has it caused any blemishes for you? Like you said, make your favorite thing your job.
You know, back in the dealership days, you work 12-hour days, 6 days a week, and there was a couple times where I didn't even want to look at a motorcycle or a four-wheeler or side by side for months. I'm just like, I don't even want to ride. I don't want to do anything with it. And then getting into the OEM side, it lends itself back to you getting back into that. You're not breathing it all the time like you do at a dealership. But yeah, there's definitely been a few times and you go in and out of it, and your career is the diehard guys never lose it. I would say I'm a diehard guy, but I've definitely have lost it a few times just from so sick
And
of
your
it.
seasons. Yeah. I had a few. I'm a huge Pacers and Colts fan, and have a few friends that have done work for them, and it's been different for them now with their fan experience after that. Just like being in it every single day, the grind of it. Not that the environment was bad, but it's just like too close to the thing that they liked a lot. So I'm sure that happens a lot.
What was the thing that got you out of, was it elementary education? Like were you in school when you started working for the dealership?
Yeah, I started at the dealership when I was 19. So I went to Ohio State. So I was in school working there part-time. And, I did my student teaching and stuff, and I really enjoyed it. Like, it was very rewarding. I'm not sure if I could be a teacher nowadays with the way society and teaching's changed, but I really did enjoy it. It wasn't like I saw an opportunity with something that I really, even though the hours were really long and things like that, it was just, hey, from a financial opportunity, a lot of teachers, they're not paid as much as they should be. But for me, it was okay. I can do this and be a lot further ahead of the game. Plus, it was doing something that I really enjoyed. So,
Do you feel like that background, though, going to school for it, showed up in your management style or the way you approached leadership, anything like that you think back on?
I think for me, a lot of us are passionate about things. And for me, I feel like I'm very patient. Like, I'm a patient person. I'm sure somebody would say that I'm not. I just enjoy just the thought, the thinking process of going through this business and, okay, how can I impact the people that work for me, or the people that I'm working with, or the people that I touch in this situation? And just how does that look for me moving forward? Like, I feel right now that I definitely have a mentoring feel to this. So as you lead people, it makes you realize you stop and check and think yourself too, because at the end of the day, for me, like, I have this super drive to win. Like, I cannot stand to lose. And like, when I'm with a company and it feels like they're not allowing us to win, I have a really hard time with that. And I know it's funny because that's why you guys, the name of this show is Why You Win. So, but I hate losing. I hate when somebody won't let us win. That really bothers me. I want to be number one. Like, if you're my competitor, I just want to smother you.
Love that energy.
That sounds a little harsh, but
No, man.
like, I always feel like I have something to prove. And I don't know why I feel that way. Probably don't, but
When you think back on your career from where you are right now, is there a moment that stands out that calls that to mind? Somebody who is keeping you from winning?
this isn't on them directly. I worked for Yamaha for a long time, and I chose to leave Yamaha. It's not that they don't want to win or anything. It was just me and the way that I wanted to handle my career moving forward. The great company, great people that work there, tons of friends that work there. It was just the way that I foresaw myself moving forward is, okay, I need a new challenge. I need a new environment. So that to me that was a very critical point for me in my career. I'd been there almost 17 years and held a lot of positions with them. I learned a lot, have some great mentors and some great people over there. But from that position in my life, it was just something that I needed to do.
Where'd you go?
From there, I went to Mahindra, which is at that time they had a 4-wheel off-road vehicle that was in a similar situation to side by side. They still offer it, but they ended up moving that under the tractor division. So I did a brief stint there and ran their commercial side and their dealer operations side for a while.
I'm curious about what you were looking for when you were like hitting that ceiling and saying to yourself, like, I can't win here. I don't have what I need. What did you look for? What was the equation that was going to look or smell more like a winning operation to you?
Something that was a challenge, where, okay, another company is trying to make a name for itself and they're aggressive. I like that aggressive approach to a business. Okay, we're new and we're trying to make a name for ourselves. So we're going to be aggressive. I like aggressive. I like that balanced risk taking, obviously, but at the same time, it's just kind of okay, are we going to be on the gas or not? That's me. Not, are we have the brake and the gas on at the same time?
Probably too heavy-handed to make a racing metaphor here, but Chris, Why You Win says that you got to be on the gas. You got to, if you're not competing, if you're already at the front of the pack, like you already won, right?
In our business, there's a lot of complacency sometimes where it's just like status quo is okay. And that's not okay with me. I want to push the envelope a little bit. I want to make things happen. I want to, like I said, I like challenges. I'm not a button pusher. I can't do that. So that's when you have to like figure out what you need for yourself.
Okay, so you're a competitive guy. You've had the advantage of interesting perspective and experience. So you've been on the dealer side, you've been on the OE side now for a few stops. And I'd love to hear your like kind of hovering above your career experience synthesis about what are the things from your experiences that say, or that are like the ingredients to winning in the channel. Thinking of things like strategies or communication or the way in which you're working with the channel. What are the things you've seen over the years that are the winning ingredients?
Yeah, I think when you're parked in the middle between what would be a home office in another country, which I've been a part of several times now, and then a domestic dealer base. So there's a big gap between what the dealer base thinks should be happening and what the home office thinks should be happening. And this is obviously not exclusive to motorsports. This is tons of businesses all over. I'm sure everybody has the same issues. As you come up through the, like in my career at a dealer, I'm looking at an OEM. Okay, what are they doing? Like, why are they doing this? This doesn't make sense. You know, I mean, you don't have that view that you do whenever you move up the OEM chain a little bit. And then as a district or in sales, you still don't have that vision of what's happening. Like you get the dealer's opinion, but you're not really getting much input from the higher up in the offices and things like that. So then as you kind of move up, then you start to get perspective. So in my career, like now looking at that 30,000 foot view, you realize how much you don't know until you get into those positions. So to me, like when I'm talking with guys, especially sales guys, because sales guys have zero patience, and I'm partially a sales guy. I wouldn't call myself 100% sales guy, but sometimes that's one area where I don't have patience either is, okay, let's just make this happen. But allowing them to, telling them like, listen, there is a plan here. And it's like, I try and be as transparent as I possibly can with the dealer network. I don't like to hide stuff. Obviously there's certain things that just don't make sense. And then sales staff and things like that. I've always been under the opinion, why do you hire somebody or why does somebody work for you if you don't trust them with information? I'm not telling you that you have to have the whole picture. That doesn't make sense sometimes because there's nothing that you can do with that information except cause problems. But if you've hired that person and they work for you, you have to give them a certain amount of trust to maintain information within that chain, because if they're good at their job, they can delineate that information down to the dealer network. And as you become more familiar with your dealer network and a big dealer network, 1,000 dealers or whatever it is, then you can understand, hey, I know what I can tell them and what I can't tell them, what's going to come through. But to me, it's just, I've grown to understand that there is a lot of information and you have to make sure you delineate it down. But for me, I tell people this all the time, just because I've been doing this a long time doesn't mean that I'm doing it 100% the right way. That just means that I can make mistakes that should have been fixed a long time ago. I'm a student of the industry and I might have just been making the same mistake that I've been making for 30 years. You know what I mean? It's just, okay, somebody taught me this way and you have to adapt. But I think it's just, being able to delineate information and provide that look back and look down on things. And that's important, I think.
Do you have any like distinct memories as you were like climbing the OE ladder where you were like, oh shit, now I get it?
Yeah, I got lots of distinct memories in this business. Yeah, I think I was in the sales force at Yamaha, and you move up and you see how that big picture operates. I had a lot of, like I said, opportunities at Yamaha and mentors and things like that. So it was kind of when I moved out of sales, I was in sales, but I wasn't directly in sales at that point. It was just kind of one of those situations where I moved up and was able to get a big picture of what was going on. And then you start to develop some relationships with people that communicate with overseas offices and things like that. Then you start to really understand what's going on. So I've had lots of aha moments, but just in the OEM world, that's one of them. And then I've worked for Japan. I've worked for India for a brief stint. And now I've worked for China for the last 4 or 5 years. So there's definitely a difference, but a similar pattern for sure.
What are the differences? What stands out?
Japanese are conservative. They're conservative. That's kept them in business for however many years it's been, especially in the US for a long time, 70 years, whatever it is now. They're definitely conservative. The Chinese are way more aggressive. They have a different view on things. It's almost I don't want to say like world domination because that's a geopolitical thing, but you know what I mean? But just in general, they want to win. They have a desire to win and push forward, make sure that they're, it's just that mentality that they have.
One of the things that we see a lot, you said students of the industry, and that resonates a lot with us. One of the things that we observe on a regular basis here is the importance of the fresh new thing. If you're not putting something new into the market, you're not doing anything worth talking about. So I'm interested in your dealer and your OE perspective on launching new products. You just think back on your career. What was like the coolest product that you saw come to market, or the one that you thought was like, yeah, this is it. I'm so glad I get to be on top of this one.
I'm a product guy. That's why we're in this business, is because this stuff's cool. You know what I mean? We're in the business that people are like, oh man, that is really cool. So when I was young, and this is going to throw me way back here, I remember Ducati having a bike. It was the 916 and it had been out for a while. And it was the most amazing, like looking motorcycle. It was the best thing ever. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I would love to have that bike. So then I ended up working at one of our dealerships was Ducati. So then I got to experience it more. Ducati makes very, very cool stuff. They're very good at that. So on my side, there was a couple times for me. I worked at Yamaha when the Rhino came out, which is a 4-wheel side-by-side vehicle, and it revolutionized the business. Like it totally changed everything. And I remember being at an event in Texas, and it was the first time that we had really had that unit out, and we were out riding, and it was mud conditions and rough, and nobody had ever seen it before. And just like people were stopping and talking to us about it because they'd seen mules and stuff from the past, but nothing like this. So that was very cool being part of that and being able to that pivot in the industry. It's never been the same since. The side-by-side industry just exploded after that. That's been 20 years ago. That came out a little over 20 years ago. And it's revolutionized the business, and that led to all kinds of new products for that. And then more recently for me, I was in charge of motorcycle division at CFMOTO, and the 450 SS that came out. It there'd been the Kawasaki had Ninjas, and there was other 300s and things like that. But for us, there was a run there of a couple bikes to the 450 SS, the Ibex 450 and things like that. That really being in charge of that and seeing the consumer like intrigue, like how much they were ready for those bikes and how quickly the fuse lit on consumer consumption of those and how many we sold and things like that. So that was great for me to be part of that, just revolutionize. That stuff really put CFMOTO on the map, and running motorcycle, that was amazing for me.
When you think about that moment, put yourself back in those shoes, and you're talking about the consumer and their interest, their intrigue, the energy that you got from that. How did you drive the dealer environment? How did you drive the channel environment? What were you doing, teaching, training? What did you have to do to make that work?
The dealers, it's amazing when you have good product and people start coming in asking for it, they're instantly experts. You know what I mean? That 450 SS was kind of like, okay, we had some dealers on board. It was like we were in year 2, and then that hit. And then everybody wanted to be a dealer after that. It was just like, okay, I know we can sell a ton of these. Let's sign up to be a dealer. We went from 0 to 100, or let's say 25 to 100, and just like miles per hour, and just sped everything up very quickly from that. We were always big into training our dealers with demo rides. We take our truck in there and get everybody to ride bikes, all the staff. We do big demo events. So to me, you have to get consumers and dealers on your product. You know what I mean? That's the only way you're going to be able to sell it, is to, especially with a new brand, is to let consumers ride it.
Is it consumers riding it, or is it the dealer reps riding it, sales staff?
It's everybody. Yeah. The dealer guys are good because they touch more people than, okay, we're just doing one consumer, one ride per guy, but the dealers are touching a lot of people. So it's imperative to get them trained on that. And you always have a training program. And in this business, you usually, for salesperson incentives and things like that from the OEM, they have to take a level of training to check that box, that's industry standard. But yeah, to get them to ride it, especially skeptical guys, there's still a lot of skeptical people out there that are Honda, Yamaha diehards. Like, I don't want to ride that thing. So once you kind of get them going on that direction, it's positive. To me, you have to ride it. You have to get them on it.
You were director, I think, motorcycle strategy at CFMOTO. Is that right?
Director of motorcycle product. Yeah.
Motorcycle product. Okay. What did that entail? What were your key responsibilities there?
So basically, all the channel flow, wholesale ordering with the factory, anything involved in helping out with marketing, just building the whole foundation for what the motorcycle branch at CFMOTO would look like. That's why they brought me in, because of my experience at Yamaha. And just, okay, hey, even though they're two competing countries, they do have similar business models and they have admiration for each other. We put that in and just, okay, what's this take from zero? You know what I mean? So we built all that stuff in place, and then just, okay, marketing, parts, accessories, sales channel, dealer channel. I put expectations on with them, with our sales guys and with the factory. This is what's reasonable year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. So basically setting targets. And then along with that, on the product side, there was another gentleman that I worked with. So we would figure out, okay, does this product make sense? And if it makes sense for the US market, what should the pricing look like? What's the long-term strategy of this product? You don't want to bring a product in and get rid of it in a year. There's long-term parts and things like that. So it's just kind of here's what we need, and here's what that looks like for the next 3 to 5 years with this certain product. And then we would work with them. Just because this is what we want doesn't mean that's what Europe needs, or Australia, or or China, what they need. So we would take a combination of that. We would work with them, and they were very good about working with us. They're good on product development. And they would say, yes, we know that you guys need this, but we need this somewhere else right now. So it's a give and take with the factory and R&D and what they can and what they can't do. They try to build product that's global in scale. There's product that we just don't need that other countries do and things like that. So it's a lot of, that job was just basically try to bring everything together: product, dealers, what's the dealer channel look like, what's the expectations of sales, things like that. So it was just a combination of all that.
So you're talking to a couple marketing guys. You mentioned you overseen marketing too, or had inputs in it. And you were talking about a pretty key insight that you need to get dealers and customers touching, feeling, experience the product. When you're giving marketing direction, and you can't necessarily, let's say, scale that to every consumer, what do you tell marketing that they need to do to create that experience or create that draw?
Yeah, to me, I think, especially with motorcycles are sexy. That's it. Four wheels, not sexy. Like, it's cool, and I'm a big four-wheel guy too, but it's not sexy like motorcycles are. You have to bring out that sexiness in a motorcycle. And I think, to me, if you couldn't do everything else, then you would say, okay, marketing guys, wait, make this product look sexy to everybody. You know what I mean? And we know this thing looks great. I mean, that's the key to marketing all the time, is you want to make your product attractive to people, but especially with motorcycles, because it's such a sensory type thing, where, ooh. So I would always push on that. I think social push is out there, and that's a big deal. I think it's become watered down a little bit. I see stuff, I'm just kind of like, people are just regurgitating stuff, and I have a hard time with that. I like new content and to look at new things in a different way. Back to what we talked about before, I would rather, in a new product line with a newer brand, I would rather don't spend $1 over here and put it all in getting butts and seats. That's, to me, is where it's all at.
Events, consumer events, dealer events. Is there a ton of noise in that? Are you just competing with every other brand that knows the same thing?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But being a new brand, and people get tired of yellow, red, blue, green. Yeah. Those, not that those brands don't do great things, but like, as soon as a new option comes in with this, because like I said, it's such an emotional thing. When a new option comes in, people are like, oh, what is that? You know what I mean? Yeah. How much? Oh, that looks cool. How much is it? I want to hear it. I want to ride it. So you're using their effort to get yourself out there, because if they're there and people are coming to ride their stuff, or they know that bike, and then you're there too, you get all the collateral from those guys doing what they're doing too. So not use it against them, but that's why you go to an event and there's every OEM's there. There's strength in numbers for sure. But as a new OEM, that totally works to your advantage. People are lined up to ride something that's new because oh yeah, I rode that bike 3 years ago type thing. You know what I mean? For other OEMs.
Mm-hmm. Their presence is bringing a lot of foot traffic to you.
Yep. Yeah, it's like the inside of the dealership is the same way too. You want to be aligned with those guys that are multi-lined, and there's people, okay, everybody knows to go to that dealership down there. Well, if my bike's sitting in there too, and it's got an attractive price and looks great, hey, we're in the ball game at that point.
What does that mean for you in terms of that competitive environment, though? Some OEMs are very, very squirrely about, I'm not going to spend a single dollar if it might possibly help my competitor in any way. But what you're saying is, like, I actually kind of want to be in a competitive environment. I want to be where these other people are, because consumers already there thinking about riding motorcycles. How do you, as the OE, invest to get into those competitive environments?
I welcome it. I love that competitive. If we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, let me flash back when I was a dealer. Dealers have this thing. They hate when you set up a competitive dealer. When I was a dealer, the guys that were from Honda or whatever, we were Honda dealer, they would come in and ask us, hey, we're looking to set up a dealer over here. And I never took it as, oh, don't do that. I'm terrified of competition. I'd be like, where are you thinking? Can I help guide it? You know what I mean? Maybe sometimes they would be better, but I welcome that competition. I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? Let's do what we need to do. So in this environment, I feel like it's the same way. If I'm doing what I'm doing, if my product's good, my pricing's good, everything's good, I'm happy with being next to you, because then we're at least at the same space. Now, being a new brand, you can get shoved in the corner, because it's easy to get shoved in the corner, because the guys that have been working in there, if they've been working there a long time, they're Honda diehard, they're Kawasaki diehard, they're Triumph diehard, whatever the situation is, they don't want to sell your product. So it's just, you run that risk. So that's where the product has to sell itself. Okay, people start coming in and ask for it. You don't have any choice but to sell it. So that's how I'm not afraid of that situation. And to me, that competitive environment is a great thing. It helps the brand. I'm not saying you need to have 50 dealers in a 10-mile radius. The dealers, sometimes they lose sight that if there's another dealer 50 miles away advertising, it's going to help you too.
Yeah, if I'm playing that back to you, what I'm hearing you say is, if there are two things I'm gonna do, I'm gonna be where people are thinking about motorcycles, and I'm not afraid of the competition, and I'm gonna do something that's so interesting, better, different, new, whatever it is, that people are coming into the dealership asking for my product. And if I can do those two things, then I'm off to the races.
And product, again, is the key. You fill holes where other OEMs or the business is taking a step back. Okay, there's a big hole over here. Why haven't they filled that yet? Fill that hole and people come out of the woodwork. Like, for example, at CFMOTO, we had an Ibex 450, which is a 450 rally bike, and really nobody had any rally bikes in that 450. Everything was either huge or non-existent. So they filled this niche, and instantly it just, like, it was sold out pre-orders before it ever even got here. It's amazing when you fill that little niche, how fast people want that, and pricing's good and things like that. So just little things like that, where if you can recognize the market and quickly react, I think that's where some of that is the key. And along the lines of being in with a competitive nature inside of a dealership where you want your product positioned, I think we're seeing the effects of Harley and what they've not done in the past 25 years as far as their struggles and that single line. For a long time, they were able to manage that single line grip on that stuff, which made sense. They were making tons of money and it was a great deal. But now it's, okay, what's our strategy going forward with those guys? And then when they have dealers that are reaching out to other brands, trying to get some complementary brands to try and fill in those gaps. So you're seeing a lot of that with Harley right now, where a lot of Harley guys dealers are approaching other OEMs, maybe not putting them right next to a Harley, but hey, we have this showroom over here type of thing. They just have to have options at this point. Yeah.
You talked about filling a gap. So from a product development standpoint, how do you find that insight to develop a product that fits that niche or that gap?
Tons of research. You spend a lot of time if you're at events, you can do questionnaires, a lot of iPad work, like, hey, will you mind taking a quick survey for us? I'm a firm believer in the answer is in the market. So we would spend a ton of time, me and the other guy in motorcycle, going to dealers. Here's what we're seeing. What are you seeing? And a lot of times, and then, okay, what do you feel like the pricing would, how many do you think you could sell? Because you ask 10 people and you get 10 different answers, but at the same time, what's the viability of selling mass quantities of something? Because everybody says, oh, I want this and want that, but they won't buy one themselves. You know what I mean? So you have to understand, like, what it looks like for the market. So is there movement for this? And you look at tons of data, but if there's not data reflecting that, because it doesn't exist, it's hard to extrapolate what would that look like moving forward. So then you kind of have to, you go out and talk to people, spend a lot of time. There's a lot of companies that won't share any product development with their dealers. Like, they just don't do it. They'll do focus groups and things like that. But for me, we were at CFMOTO, especially, we were big and, okay, here, sign this agreement that you're not going to say anything. Here's what we think. You know what I mean? Here's what the next couple products look like. Thumbs up, thumbs down. How much do you think you could sell? How much is it? What's the pricing should be? We were always big into that. I think that feedback it's just imperative to get that kind of information from the people on the ground that are fighting that fight every day.
How do you suss out you mentioned something along the lines of people will tell you things and give you advice, but they won't part ways with their money. How do you distinguish?
Yeah, well, those guys are a little bit easier. They're usually these guys, the quirky guys that they're like, oh, if you made this, you'd sell a million of them. And I'm like,
Like, sure.
I'm not sure. Okay, you might buy one, but I'm just not sure if that makes sense from setting up a production line, running 10,000 units off or whatever it is. So it's just, you got to do your due diligence, and you can extrapolate some of that from data that you have and a lot of feedback, but sometimes you got to just roll the dice on some stuff. The one thing that has just blown me away, Honda has done such a good job the past few, let's call it 20 years, of finding a product that didn't have a market at all, and just bam, it explodes, like the Honda Grom thing. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a little
I'm
motor.
such a huge fan of the Grom. Tell Kyler what the Grom is.
Yeah, they just conjured that buyer out of thin air. Like, I have so much admiration for the forethought, like, just to, like, you know what we should do? We should make this mini bike and make it street legal, and we're going to sell 1 billion of these things. And they just hit a home run, and they've been able to do that with some other throwback stuff too. And I'm not sure if they make a ton of money on it or whatever, but man, just the cool stuff like that. A lot of, Honda, they do some weird things sometimes, but man, they hit some home runs too that just, I really enjoy when that happens with companies and they're able to do that. Just make this weird conjuring out of nowhere and sell a bunch of stuff. Plus, I just like Groms, and I don't know, I just think it's awesome.
I talk to so few motorcycle guys, like people who are self-described motorcycle guys that are fans of the Grom. Most people are like, oh gosh, seriously? That's embarrassing. No, dude, I like those things.
I lived in Huntington Beach for 5 years in Southern California, man. There'd be packs of 50 of those things running around the beach area down there. And it's so much fun riding them around. I mean, it's just, I always tell everybody, I'm like, you can't not have a smile on your face when you ride that thing. It's just so much fun. And you're like, oh, my buddies would make fun of me. I'm like, who cares, man? It's a blast. Yeah. I have a scooter and I have the same reaction to it. I have a Zoom, and every time I ride it, I just smile the whole time.
As we're starting to wrap up, question for you. What do you think, or what's your hypothesis of what would bring more people into the market to grow the pie?
I think going back, let me flash back a little bit here. COVID brought a wave of people into our business. It was like times I've never seen ever. And we were kind of thinking that there was going to be some fallout, like, okay, they buy it when COVID hits and then they get rid of it. And we haven't seen the trade-ins or the big used sales or anything like that. So I think weird situations like that, obviously I don't want another COVID, don't get me wrong, but it's okay now. It's like, now people are starting to see everything's expensive, especially young people. And that's kind of your target, is that younger 25 to 35. And they're having a hard time buying houses and paying bills and student loans and everything else that's going on in the world right now. I think as some other companies they're trying to bring the prices down and trying to make things more friendly. And I think you see that there's been a new, like with, I'm not sure which gen we're on right now, Z or whatever it is, but there's been an uptick in Gen Z having interest in motorsports, motorcycles, power sports, maybe not so much on the four-wheel side because that's more expensive. It takes a little bit more to do that. But on the two-wheel side, you're seeing people come in that you wouldn't expect to come in. So younger people are coming in, and I think they're buying those $5,000 to $7,000 products, and they're able to afford the insurance. So they're using it as a means for transportation. Maybe buying a house is just too far out of the realm. Okay, well, I want to buy this in the short term and do that instead. So transportation's become popular. And I think, as you said, like as the prices come down, because prices went skyrocketing, like back in the 2000s, all the cool bikes, sport bikes and stuff went way too high. So now everything's starting to come back down again, and insurance shot up, and now everything's a little less performance. So there's not as much high premiums and things. I just think as companies get creative, which a lot of them are right now, they get creative and they understand that you don't need to light somebody's hair on fire. You just need to get them in something that's affordable. You know what I mean? But I think you're seeing that kind of happen again in the US market, is everything's just coming back to, it all cycles itself through. And I think you're seeing that happen right now, and everybody's catering to that person, and the market's in a pretty unique place right now.
Chris, imagine you woke up tomorrow and you were managing a dealership again. What are you going to do immediately to take advantage of everything that you've learned?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that you always, like, to me, number one, your people. Okay. What's your people? What's your situation there? Look, are they happy? Are they unhappy? Like, how can you make them happy? How can you want to have them come into work every day? Make it, when I worked at a dealership, it was always a fun environment. And not that I personally made it fun, but the people that worked there, we had fun, you know what I mean? And we were productive and we kicked a lot of butt doing that, selling stuff. I think you have to make that fun. I think you have to understand what's the driver of the business in your area. And I think that moving forward after that, I think that you have to understand just the nuts and bolts of what, okay, hey, I know this dealer, he's selling this. You want to take a lot of information from other sources and try to understand exactly what that layers into in your own success, profitability, and things like that. But also too, me now looking back, like this life balance is important for people, not just myself, but for people the world's changed a lot. And so it's okay, you're 25 years old. I know you want a job here. Okay, you're a really good employee. What else makes you happy? What can we do to try to make our place inviting to work for? We want you to have a good time here. I don't want you to take advantage of me. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But at the same time, like I want to cater to the world. It's been a long time since I've done that. The world that I live in right there in that environment to make things successful. And everything, there's always a bottom line and there's a business aspect to this. But two, what's your people like? Are they happy? You know what I mean? I think people lose sight of that sometimes, and everybody says, oh, young people don't want to work and all that stuff. Okay, let's talk through that a little bit and see exactly what's happening. I've calmed down. We all want to make money, and don't get me wrong, that would be, but I think it's making sure that you have a really good environment. It's a grind. It is a grind, and sometimes it'll burn you down at the nub if you're not careful about that.
Good advice.
Yeah, we're in the business of fun, and that can get snuffed out pretty quick. You have to be careful with that.
Don't forget to get on the bike.
Yep. Yeah. The most successful guys I know, they're the ones that are very engaged in, hey, we're going out for a ride. We're closing an hour early. Let's go for a ride. You got to remember why you do it. Every time I get to ride something, I get re-energized in this business. It doesn't matter what it is. I always get energized. So little things like that just makes it. That's why we do it.
Let's go shut down early and launch some ads.
I know the GoPro every
Speaking
Thursday.
my language.
Yeah. So the GoPro guys in Southern California, every Thursday, they would close at lunch. And they said, you go do whatever you want to do. Just take your GoPro with you and film some GoPro stuff. So I was like, that's that's a great idea. You don't have to sit here and rot in your cubicle for the rest of the day.
Chris, this has been awesome. Thanks for sharing your experiences and your background. Learned a lot here today.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys getting me on here and just let me talk a little bit about my past. It's been a great ride, man. I've been very lucky and very, very fortunate in my career to be able that it's played out the way that it has. So I'm grateful for that.
Fantastic. All right. Appreciate you. Why You Win is presented by Element 3, a marketing firm focused on modernizing go-to-market strategies for manufacturers that sell through complex distribution channels. We help leaders solve problems across demand generation, sales channel support, and brand development.
If you'd like more from myself or John, connect with us on LinkedIn. And for more from Element 3, visit element3.com. That's elementthree.com.